Okay, hi everybody. I just want to emphasize today we're doing a thing called Conversations on Gratitude. It's the holiday season, so basically, what I wanted to do was do a reading. It's a really special reading. It comes from my um woman's meditation book, Each Day a New Beginning. It's one of my favorite books. And the reading that I like a lot about gratitude is on October 26th. My life has been a tapestry of rich and royal hue, an everlasting vision of the ever-changing view. It's by Carol King. Every event of our lives is contributing to a rich thread to our personal tapestry. Each of us is weaving one unique to ourselves, but all of our tapestries are complementary. We need each other's rich designs in order to create our own. We seldom have the foresight to understand the worth, the ultimate value of a particular circumstance at its beginning, but hindsight offers us clarity. It's good to reflect on the many circumstances that failed to thrill us. In all cases, we can now see why we needed them. As our trust in God and the goodness of all experiences grow, we'll more quickly respond with gladness when situations are fresh. No experience is meant for harm. We are coming to understand that even though on occasion we forget, practicing gratitude will help us more fully appreciate what has been offered us. Being grateful influences our attitude. It softens our harsh exterior and takes the threat out of most new situations. If I greet the day glad to be alive, I'll be gladdened by all the experiences in store for me. Each is making a necessary contribution to my wholeness. I wanted to read that because one of the things I've learned, and the gift of gratitude has kind of brought it to me, is that throughout the journey of life, we go through so many different experiences. And every experience is important because it is like building that tapestry, putting that mosaic together about who we are as a person. And we have to be able to look at these things not negatively, but positively. And believe me, it's not easy sometimes. But sometimes we've got to work through the negative to get to the positive. But somehow, some way, an attitude of gratitude, of humility, an attitude of acceptance and love, this mantra teaches us that we have to face the reality of who we are, where we are, what we've gone through, but try to face it in a positive way so we can learn from it and grow from it. Unfortunately, when you're going through it, you don't feel that. And that's why the tools we talked about in the toolbox and stuff to that effect are important. They're not complicated, they're simple. But it's all part of that process of the tapestry, which is the important part of it. And so today Loretta's going to share some things with me, and I'll go back and forth with her. But if you have questions or things about what we talked about in gratitude or some of your own things you want to share, put them in the chat. And then Loretta will try to get as much of it in as we possibly can get in as we go through this today. Okay? So we'll see what happens.
All right, Vince, while you're talking about this gratitude, I think sometimes, and you do it so beautifully when you talk about your family and the good and the bad and how grateful you are for those experiences. But how do you get there? How do you get from the trauma to the gratitude?
Well, one of the things I've learned is a little phrase I have. You have to go through hell to get to heaven. And the hell that we go through a lot of times, sometimes in our addiction, we do some crazy things and insane things. And then when we get into recovery, we have to face our hell. We have to face our negative stuff. We have to face it with an attitude. And that's where recovery really has to really work on us. I have to face it through the attitude of learning, of discovering, and the fact that whatever experiences I've gone through in life, if I can have the courage, it takes a lot of courage, believe me, to be able to look at it and learn from it, then it becomes part of my growth process. That's why I like that concept of mosaic or tapestry, of putting it all together. And we're going to go through a lot because we have this war inside of us, the ego versus the spirit. We got to do it our way, of course, first, and then we got to get a headache and go through some pain, and then we look at it the other way. So, yeah, I mean, it's not easy, believe me. Gratitude sounds beautiful, but to have an attitude of gratitude of life and things around us is not easy. It's painful sometimes. And things don't always go the way we think they should go. But I'm learning, a little bit at a time, things normally go the way they're supposed to go. And there's a lesson in it somewhere along the line. And I think that's important. And that's where a lot of those cliches come in. I mean, the sayings come in, do a little bit at a time, progress, not perfection, or whatever you want to call it. Keep it simple, do what you can do, just keep learning. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's like,
Yeah, I guess that, and maybe this is another tool is the patience piece. Because everybody wants to know how long it takes. Can we move forward with this? Can we speed it up a bit? How can we shorten the process? Or maybe that's just me. But I would be suspicious that many want to just get better or be in total recovery.
well, there's a simple answer to that. One day at a time till 10 years after you're dead. That's the simple answer. But the bottom line is, nothing in life just happens overnight. Things that are good and beautiful, we have to almost earn. We got to develop. We have to learn from things in the past. My sponsor used to tell me this in my other eating disorder program. He used to say, if you learn that much today, you made progress. Don't do too much. Because how we build good, healthy attitudes and good concepts and good areas of recovery, we build it one little piece at a time. So yes, I've got to go through a lot in life. And sometimes life, takes you through the back door. And sometimes it beats you up a little bit. And sometimes we have to go through certain things in life. We're going to go through loss and change and all kinds of things. We have to realize the fact that, we have to try. And sometimes we even got to fake it to try to look at it through the eyes of gratitude. Because, you have to look back and realize, wow, I've got 84 years of history. That's a lot of years of history. Now, is it all positive? Of course not. But good pieces of it are. And usually I find out over the long run, everything in life balances out about 50-50. The yin and the yang, the back and forth, the learning. And as soon as I know about recovery, as soon as you grow in one area of recovery, then we have to move to another area of recovery we got to learn about. And some people have said to me, when are you done? He says, I don't want to be done. We have to continue the process of learning and growing. It's a lifetime process. So it's living.
And Vince, you've said a couple times, you've shared with the lecture group that, you're doing the second step or the fourth step again. Is that because sometimes we want to cheat during recovery and not necessarily do all the work? You want to talk about that a little bit?
I think you do stuff when you're ready to do it. See, to me, the steps are an ongoing process of life. And you experience the steps in all different areas of life. But I think as you grow as a person, your vision of them changes. Especially the fourth step. on any of the steps. You know, when we first come into recovery, you know, the steps are more intellectual, which is normal. You know, we find out about them, and, you know, and sometimes some 12-step programs, they can take you through the steps intellectually in a couple of weeks. But then you have to go back and you have to constantly go through the process of living them, of rediscovering them. And as you grow, the steps grow. See, I've always looked at the 12 steps as this beautiful, beautiful format of principles of growth. But as I learn something, I have to continue building those principles and keep working at them. Now, does that mean that I have a formal aspect? No. It means that every day of your life, you're going to experience step one every day. There's always something you're powerless over, right? You have to admit to it. And sometimes our life gets a little unmanageable. You got to learn another lesson, go through some more growing. And that's where I've learned, you know, to constantly, and my sponsor tells me this all the time, to constantly do a gratitude list. Keep adding to it. Sometimes, you know, you even got to be grateful for change in your life. And you're going to go through changes. I mean, we're going through something right now, even my wife and I and our family and everything else. And it's part of the process of life. You know, this past year, we lost my wife's sister who was mentally challenged. You know, this is the first set of holidays that we're going to have without her. There's a lot of sadness in that. And yet, a lot of gratitude for what we had. You're still going to feel the sadness because our holidays were always centralized around her. Because even though she was in her 60s, mentally she was probably 7 or 8. She was always the fun person in the holidays. So we kind of built things around her. So she won't be here this year. So yes, there is a sadness. There's a loss, you know. But it also means that we have to try to look at it through the eyes of gratitude. Grateful we had her. Grateful she was part of our life. And we have to be able to look at that and try to look at it in a positive way. Will there be tears? There already are tears. My wife and I talked about this the other day. You know, we're looking at pictures and, you know, you go over stuff and stuff to this effect. And, you know, we miss her tremendously. But the journey goes on. You can take that in a lot of other different areas of your life. So your faith in a higher power and a God of your understanding, that's constantly changing. Everything's always changing. Isn't that amazing? You know, and that, but yet at the same time, sometimes I don't want some things to change, but they change. I mean, I'm going through it. You know, my position in life has changed. I can't do a lot of things I used to be able to do, so I have to adjust. And so acceptance, adjustment, gratitude for what was. I'm grateful for a lot of things in my life, but I also know they're memories now. I have to kind of move on. I have to look back on them through the eyes of gratitude. Grateful I could do it, grateful for the people I've met, and grateful for the people who gave me and shared their gift of recovery with me to help me become a better person. That's why everybody in this room right now is a gift. We're a gift to each other. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't. You know, and that's one of the things I love about the steps. I can work them in my life, but I have to interact with them in other people's lives, even with people that fundamentally don't know what I'm talking about. That's okay too. So we live in a world. I mean, I'll say it again, I'll say it 5,000 times. The world is insane and crazy. It will always be. It's like a sideshow sometimes. You know, it's sick sometimes, but it's what it is. Now I can get myself all involved in that crazy world, or I can look at the gift of recovery Because in the world of recovery, it's a safe place for me to go to be able to share what's going on inside of me and not get caught up in the craziness and the insanity. So the steps have given me that gift to be able to do what you can do. Yes, you can do a lot of good for the people around you. You can plant seeds, open up doors. Could be a simple little thing. We never know. And that's why gratitude is so important. But yes, take it easy, relax. You know, I had a session recently with a gentleman who at a later age of his life is pursuing a relationship. And he's doing it the right way. He's building friendships. It's a slow process. And he finally has learned a lesson. You don't jump into these things. You let them happen. And that's hard for us to do, to let go. And let them happen.
Well, there is a phrase in the slogans that says live and let live. I would suspect that when we're doing that, sometimes forgiveness plays a big part in that, or is that just the wrong assumption?
No, it's true. Live and let live is a powerful saying. We have to live our life to the best of our ability and allow others to live theirs, even though we might disagree with what they're doing. We not like what they're doing. And sometimes we even get angry at them for what they're doing. But we have to realize the fact is, it's their journey. And they're going to make mistakes. They're going to go through changes. Parents go through this all the time. Parents, a lot of times, would love to see their kids, just get settled into this little cocoon. But they don't cooperate. So now we've got to let them go. And they may end up doing a lot of things that you totally disagree with. And even some of it's painful. But it's their learning curve, it's their learning process of what they've got to go through. And unfortunately, for some people, they can only go as far as they can go. You have to accept that too. I remember a gentleman I worked with for a long time when I was a priest, Frank G. I mean, he was a character, Irish character, and it took us a long time. He finally got himself sober. And the one thing he would come to meetings and say, look, it took me all these years to work the first step. Don't give me that second step. I'm just doing the first step. And after I die, I'll do the second step on the other side. I laugh at that today, but yeah, that was Frank. Guess what? That's all he could do. He couldn't do anything else. And that's okay. It's okay. It's not my job to make anybody do anything. It's my job just to share the gift as it works for me and open the doors to others, and they got to find what works for them. We all got a story. Now, the stories are so important. They're so powerful. It's so beautiful. Don't ever sell yourself short, okay? Because there's so much you have inside of you. We're still discovering it. It's a big part of our process in life. And I'm learning too, as a result of the steps. I'm discovering new things that I can do. It's called adjustment. Now, it's funny, isn't it? I used to be able to run around the countryside and give talks all kinds of parts of the country. Now what? Now I stay in my living room or my office and I give talks on a machine. It's called Zoomy. And now I'm a Zoomer. What can I tell you? I never, in my wildest dreams, thought this would happen. And who knows in the future? Maybe I'll be able one of these days to give talks in a certain place using that thing from, Beam Me Up, Scotty. That concept. Just stand still, and you're there. Who knows? I don't know. But it's the adventure of life. You have to live it. Now, Whenever you have an adventure, remember, you're going to have pain, tears, joy, and celebration. You're going to experience those things. It's all part of it. You know, that thing in the gym that say no pain, no gain. Well, it's life. Yeah, we all go through struggles, physical, emotional, spiritual, social, you know, no matter what happens in life. You know, 1 minute everything's working out, the next minute it's not. You know, I told you I had that little accident, but I hit the rear end of a deer last week. You know, and it changed the whole trajectory with stuff I'm doing. You know, and today driving home from the chiropractor, I had these, well, I guess you call them geese, ran out in front of the road. I had to put my brakes on real hard. Otherwise, I would taking a couple of them home with me too. You know, and I kept saying, "What is this thing? Well, these animals are following me around here. You break, will you?"
That's
It
good.
injected some humor into it. I said, maybe I'm following the example of St. Francis. The animals used to run around him all the time. But
There
they're
you go.
you know, I said, my God, you know, all of a sudden they came out of nowhere. And the funny part about life is you don't know. That's what when I talk about that split second, everything can just take a turn so quickly. And you have to turn with it. You can't run away from it. That's the important piece. You got to be open to it.
Vince, you're talking about the recovery toolbox, but there's also other people in our lives. So, how do they deal with recovery? How do they encourage recovery? There's the outsider to that magic place. What is their toolbox?
Again, everybody has to have their own toolbox. You know, I can probably say to you, some people do it one way, people do it another way. See, the toolbox is simply, people, I have to work on my own individual toolbox. What works for me in the course of my journey in life? That's my toolbox. Each one of us has to have our own toolbox. Find out what tools work for us. Now, when I go to a meeting, I can share my tools and somebody else can share their tools. And I can, oh, wow, that's a neat tool. I'll put that in my box. I can pick something up here, pick up something there. But each group has to find their own. And then there are people that have, they live in their own world. I mean, I look back on my family when I was growing up, and I love my family. But my family had their tools, and their tools were you do the exact same thing at every holiday, every year, and you don't deviate.
That's tradition, Vince.
Tradition, and which is fine because it works for them. As I got older, not that I respect any of that, I realize my traditions are different now. And so as I get even more older, which I hope I do, if I get more older, I may have some more traditions I'm going to do. I mean, just like I said earlier, we had the tradition of doing the holidays with Dorothy. Now I may choose other areas to do the holidays with. I don't know. As we go through life, my toolbox may change, just as everybody else's toolbox will change. My relationship with everything in life, I hope, keeps growing. I don't want it to become stale. But I also realize I've got to make adjustments to it too in life. So I mean, look at us today. Okay? We're all on a different journey. And yet we're on the same journey. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
We're all different, but we're all on the same journey. And the journey is to try to be as healthy as we can be in the course of our journey in life. Now, will there be setbacks? Yeah. I've experienced situations in my own life, even, now let me show you an example. For a long period of time, okay, I went to very few doctors, took very little medication, practically no medication, and I prided myself on it. And God came along and said, well, Vince, I think it's time for you to join the herd. And so now all of a sudden, I've got 15 doctors. And I'm told later on that goes along with being a senior. And now I got some aches and pains I'm dealing with in the course of my journey in my life. I always be proud up until this year. I never got a visit from arthritis. Now guess what? He's here. He came to visit. Now I got to deal with him too. So things keep changing in the course of your journey in life. And you think it's going to be one way, but it doesn't stay that way. It keeps changing. It will all keep changing. Isn't that great? It's a part of it. It's the fun part about life. Open new doors, new directions, new things. You don't know what's on the behind the next door you're going to open.
So
You might get scared.
would you say that recovery, that the 12 steps is a good way to get you to know yourself, to learn more about yourself, to accept life regardless of whether there's an addiction involved?
To me personally, I mean, I just say this, my own personal, I believe that the 12 steps are a fundamentally way of life for anybody. You don't have to have an addiction. There actually is a book put out by Hazelton called The 12 Steps for Anybody Who Really Wants to Use Them.
I like that.
And it works because all they are spiritual principles for life. And so the doors can open in a lot of different directions with that. I don't think the founders of AA totally understood that they were putting together a process that can be used by everybody in life. I said this a long time ago. If all the religions would just get together and use the 12 steps, everything would kind of work very nicely. But the point is, we all have our differences and our stuff, and we go through it in life. It's part of what we do. It's part of our learning process we have. That's why gratitude, you get bent out of shape about a lot of things. But just have gratitude for life, for the moment, for the things that we have right now. And things will move to where they're supposed to move. What's going to happen? I don't know. Nobody knows. So it's almost like that we're involved in a stage play. And we never know what the next act is going to be. And we have to try to be open to it. We don't have to like it. We have to accept it and try learning and growing as a result of it. But everything finds its course, finds its way. We might think we're getting away with a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're an addict like me, period in my life where I thought, nobody knows I'm doing this, so I just kind of do it under the table. Eventually they'll caught up to me. Everything catches up to you. So you just try to be as honest as you can be. And nobody's totally honest. Do the best you can do with it and go with the flow. And if you have to deal with getting more honest as you go along, try to do it. But it's not easy, believe me. Not easy at all. I joke even here at home because my wife has this detective's eye. Now, I get something to eat, I clean everything up, put everything away, everything back where it belongs. And later on she'll say to me, "You were at the counter doing stuff today, weren't you?" I said, "How do you know that?" She said, "Very easily." She said, "I could see where you cleaned everything on top, the marks and stuff, because I don't do it that way. I do it differently." I said, "Okay, you got me again." And she said, "Vince, I'm going to tell you something. You won't get away with anything here." I said, "Yeah, I knew that." And I'm grateful, but it's all part of it if you go through the process with it. So you learn, we all have our ideas, we have all of our stuff. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get called on stuff too, which is important.
Vince, you have a process that you do every day to sort of reconnect with yourself. Is that a fair assessment of your routine in the morning?
In the morning, yeah, I mean, I have a routine because I'm a person that needs a routine. Some people have, don't need routines, they do it differently. You know, I'm usually up around 4:30. I like to do my prayers, my meditation in the morning. I like to post something on Facebook. And what I try to do is find something in my different prayer books that sticks with me for the day. And then, because I was going to talk on gratitude, I found that one that I liked a lot in a woman's meditation books. And then later on, I post something on Facebook about whatever I'm doing. That's my ritual, though, you know. And then I need that during the course of the day. So it's like I need the fuel to get started. But I'm a morning person. I don't expect anybody to do that kind of stuff if they're not a morning person. So we all find their own way. Same thing when it comes to belief, when it comes to ways in which we worship, things that we do in the course of life. You know, we all have our own little ways that we do things. Our connection with a higher power. You know, we have other names, a higher purpose, you know, a divine presence. There's a lot of different ways in which we call that. But there's also some more learning that goes along with it. You know, so yeah, I think for me, again, I'm brainwashed. Okay. Coming out of the priesthood, because in the priesthood, what do? You got up at a certain time, you went to a morning prayer, you went to this, you went to that. I did that for 32 years. So after 32 years, I think I still have a little bit of that ritual in my life. So I use it to the best of my ability. You know. And sometimes it doesn't work. You know. That's okay too.
I love that you reference that because there are habits we learn. And can you talk a little bit about those habits that you have to unlearn and how to fill up that empty hole?
Well, sometimes we can unlearn them. Sometimes I think we just have to accept them. For example, if we have certain habits, before I can change them or do anything with them, I have to accept them first. I said this a long time ago. In order for change to take place, I have to build a relationship with something. I have to embrace it first. So if I've got a bad habit, I have to accept the fact that this is not healthy for me and look at it, try to look at it and learn from it and move forward from it. Am I able to do it all the time? No. But I learn to adjust to it the best I can. There's a thing I do called shame reduction, where I can take things in life and some things I just have to reduce down to a manageable level so I can learn to live with them. And that's part of it. We know that from a physical perspective. You might have some sort of an injury. You've gone as far as you can with it. And maybe you have to embrace it. You have to build a relationship with it. And then you can actually use it in a positive way. So it's the same thing emotionally, same thing spiritually, every area of life. You know, it's like I've got to be able to accept the fact that these are a good example of my life is, you know, I built a relationship with alcohol, a relationship with food. And instead of me running away from it and trying to hide from it, I had to embrace it. It's part of who I am. It's part of my makeup. So only until I'm able to embrace it can I build a relationship with it and then try to move it in a positive way. So I don't think you totally get rid of stuff. It's part of your history. I think you learn to embrace it. We all have our character defects, our little habits and things that we do and stuff to that effect. So we have to try to the best of our ability to embrace it. That's all. Then learn from it and move forward. That's what acceptance is all about. That's why that mantra is so important. An attitude of gratitude, a humility, a learning, acceptance, and then love. I have to learn to love the fact, even falling in love with my defects. We all got defects. Come on. You know, we got our idiosyncrasies, our different ways of life, things in that direction. You know.
And can you talk a little bit about, I mean, it's really about acceptance, but accepting those idiosyncrasies of other people, specifically the ones that we love or that are in our life?
Mhm. I it is a good example of this, okay? And in my family, one, two, I think we lost 8 people to addiction in my family. You know, alcohol and some drugs. And again, we we tried a lot of different ways, but again, it didn't work. So that's to accept the fact that, that's where their journey took them. And I'm thinking of and then different people. I'm thinking of my cousin right now. Her husband had a major alcohol problem, but she couldn't face the fact that he did. And so literally, she went into her own denial world. And she used to say things to me like, I think maybe my husband might have a slight addiction problem. And I used to say to her, is it strange when you go out in the morning in January and pick up the morning paper and see your husband asleep on the front lawn? But do me a favor. How many husbands are sleeping on the front lawn this morning? You got to bring them in and thaw them out, you know? And, but again, when you don't want to see something, you don't see it. And, she went to his deathbed. He went to his deathbed from this disease, but nobody wanted to see it. And so you can't do anything about that. It's just the way it is. You have to accept that. Is it painful? Yes. Watching it? Yes. And then, again, we have a lot of traditions in different families. You know that. You grew up in any type of a family, culture, different types of things, and you make changes after a period of time. And a lot of people don't like the fact that you're making changes. It's all part of it. It's just like my cousin, the one I was telling you about, her husband, who was the alcoholic, owned, sold his business and bought a bar. And she worked the bar. And when he died on his deathbed, he died of cirrhosis on his deathbed. He said to her, make me a promise, never ever sell my bar. Keep it going in my memory. She went to her deathbed, working that damn place, and worked her into the ground because she made a promise. Again, now that's an old Italian tradition. Do I follow some of those old traditions? No, I don't. I've changed. I look at things differently. Now, people get upset at me because I do, yeah. It's all part of it. It's part of the journey. You learn after a while. Things change. Traditions change. That's why I love Fiddler on the Roof. He's always screaming about traditions. Well, some traditions are wonderful and great. Enjoy them. Some of them outlive their life and you got to move on. You got to develop new things in new directions. And sometimes people can't handle things that move in new directions. So what do? They keep going back to the old. That's all part of it. So it's all part of the growing process we do in life. And that's why when I talk about gratitude, to me, it is the secret of everything. And to try to have an attitude of looking at things and saying, even though I accept the fact this is very unhealthy, how can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? It's all part of it. And so I learned, learned after a while to appreciate things. I gave a good example. It just happened to me recently because I'm been going through some physical problems. And I decided to try a different chiropractor. And I tried a different chiropractor for about 2 weeks. And basically, what I learned from that chiropractor was I appreciated my old chiropractor. And so I'm right back to my old one. My old one does a hell of a better job than this guy did. I'm getting a lot more out of it. But see, my little ego said, well, go try something new. Try somebody different. But now I went back to what works. So now I'm starting to feel a lot better since I went back. But it's back and forth, learning. And big part about life, which is, and I'm grateful, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to screw up. Come on. Isn't that part of the human condition? And the secret is, even though you don't want to admit to them, you have to face them. Because really, they are some of our most powerful, growing periods of our life. You gotta learn from them. That's what they're about. And sure, you're going to get lazy. You're going to go through different types of changes. It's just a small part of the human condition. But again, when you're putting that life tapestry together, you realize you never know how talented, how gifted we are and stuff to that effect.
So do you have a mantra for us, for all of those that have to suffer through the traditions of their family for Thanksgiving, how best to handle it?
You want my mantra?
Yes.
Don't worry about it. Just go do what you got to do and don't worry about it. I follow my family.
I always use that phrase on me,
Don't worry about it. You just move forward. Well, they get upset. Yeah, if I get upset, then they'll get over it. Don't worry about it. I remember when I first got married, and I went to my aunt's 80th birthday party. And this is a real Italian family. And I walked in, and all the men were sitting around the table, and the wives were waiting on them. And my uncle said to me, sit here and tell your wife to get your dinner. I told my uncle, I said, you know what? If I sit here and tell her to get my dinner, I will starve to death. And so my wife said, if he wants his dinner, tell him to go get it. And at that moment, she was no longer accepted. I said, at that moment, you got the maloca put on you. But you know what? My uncle gave her a hard time for almost a year. And then my uncle loved her in the end. And they got along really great together. It's totally amazing. In fact, my wife celebrated my uncle's 90th birthday party right here at our house. She organized the whole thing and everything. And he thanked her for it. But boy, he wasn't very nice to her in the beginning. But it's change. People have a hard time with change. And sometimes you guys just gotta do what you gotta do and move forward. That's what you can do. You can't do any more than that. It's all part of it. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, and one of the things in my prayer I'll talk about in a minute, but I really believe Thanksgiving is a celebration of gratitude. And even though things might not be going the way you want them to go, be grateful for whatever you have. Be grateful for every moment. Be open to different things in different directions. But just don't celebrate it one day in a year. It's a day where we emphasize it. But gratitude is something we have to practice every day. The gift of gratitude, the gift of life. And the more we're grateful, the more we'll enjoy. And will things get done? Yeah, eventually. Don't get done right away, they'll get done later. God has this wonderful, beautiful way. Everything finds its way when it's supposed to. And we were taught a long time ago, get the hell out of the way. I have that plaque on my wall and I love it. It says, stop being a backseat driver. God's driving the car. He knows where he's going. Leave him alone. A simple little thing. It makes so much sense to me.
Can I just add something here since we don't have a lecture next week? I will be posting my podcast with a practitioner and her daughter that is all about gratitude and the thankful heart. I'll have it in your newsletter next week. It's worth listening to. It brought lots of tears to my eyes. And it is so heartfelt. But it is a mother talking about supposedly being able to fix something and a daughter talking about being at the bottom of a pit and needing to help herself. So it's just an amazing, beautiful story that we will be doing a series out of, but this is the gratitude piece and definitely worth listening. So it should be on our site by the end of the week. I'll announce it in the newsletter that goes out. And I think, Vince, we're starting to run out of time, don't you?
Okay. All right. Well, how about if I close with kind of a special prayer for Thanksgiving?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Let us pray. God, we come before you. We come before you in gratitude. We come before you in prayer. We ask the God of our understanding, our higher presence. We ask that you guide us and be with us on the journey of life. Teach us the gift of gratitude. Teach us to be able to be grateful for every little thing we experience in life. Teach us to realize that no matter what happens, with an attitude of gratitude, we can handle almost anything. Help us through the mosaic of our life, to learn from our experiences, to learn from our mistakes, to continue growing and learning about who we are and where we're going. Give us the strength just to be open to new things and new directions. But above all, as we celebrate the Feast of Thanksgiving, teach us to give thanks, but not just on one day. For giving thanks is something we do every day of our life. So thank you, God. Thank you for the gift of life. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for the experiences. And we pray in a very powerful way as we get ready for this holiday. That we celebrate it in the gift of gratitude and love. And realize we're in a constant process of learning and growing. So we pray and we ask this for guidance and direction. And we ask this in your name.